What up? Maryam here. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back. We have a new concealer in town and it is from Makeup by Mario. It is the new addition to the Surreal Skin collection. So we have a Surreal Skin foundation. Now we have a concealer. And in this video, I am going to be testing it out. I'm going to be giving you guys the full review. I'm going to swatch all of these shades for a shade reference. And also, I'm going to conduct a wear test because this concealer is actually set to be self-setting, meaning you don't need powder to set it. So I'll test it out in both ways, without setting it and also with powder, and we'll see what happens. Let's get into this video. Remember to subscribe if you aren't already, notification bell for those Wednesdays and Sundays videos. And now let's get into it. Makeup by Mario, Surreal Skin, Awakening Concealer. Here we come. Review, wear test, and the whole truth. All right, so first and foremost, let's get into these shades. There are 22 shades, I believe. Looks like I was sent every single one, which is very nice, especially for this review. For the purpose of this review, I am going to swatch all of them on my face. These are $29 each. Just gonna open up the first one in no particular order, just to look at the wand. Looks like a nice typical type of wand, like a felt tip. This is made in Canada, and it's supposed to be a self-setting concealer, which, you know, a lot of concealers claim to be self-setting, like the Jane Iredale that I've been using for a couple of weeks now is also self-setting, and that one is in fact self-setting. You literally do not need powder to set it. So this might be a new trend happening on the concealer market, but of course I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna test it out in both ways. It's said to blur, brighten, and self-set for a naturally lifted complexion. Also, it has some caffeine to help depuff and awaken the under eye. What I should have probably done is figured out what these shades are. I think I'm gonna do that real quick. I'm just gonna set them on my table from the lightest to the deepest, just for a quick swatcheroo. Okay, looks like I have all 22 shades. So now I'm gonna go from the lightest to the deepest, starting with shade 120, and I'm gonna swatch that right in my under eye. Shade 120. Next is shade 140. This one's slightly more yellow than the 120, which seemed to have more of a rosy undertone. Next we have 160. We are back to the rosy undertone. Here we have shade 180, back to the yellow undertone. Shade 200 is actually an olive undertone. Shade 220, looks like a peach undertone. Shade 240 looks like a golden undertone. Probably 240 would be the shade that I would use. Here we have 260. This I would say is a tan warm golden undertone. Next is 280. Next we have shade 320. So we are skipping shade 300. Perhaps that shade is not yet available. And this is a very pinky undertone. Shade 340 is next. Another warm undertone. Here is shade 360. Cooler version of that. Shade 380 is next. Olive version of that. Next shade is 420. So it looks like we're also skipping shade 400, assuming there will be more shades coming. This one I will say is a neutral tan. Next we have shade 440. Shade 460 is next. Shade 520 is next. This is a cooler version of the previous shade. 540 is next. 560 is next. 620 is next. So it looks like we are skipping from 560 all the way to 620. This tells me there will be more shades. And last but not least, we have shade 640 and shade 660. All right, so here we have it. Here are all the shades swatched on my face. I was trying to go for something a little bit more artistic. Hope this makes sense. I know this is not a shade reference by any means, but hopefully you can kind of appreciate the range. Here are the lightest shades, here are the mediums, here are the tans, and here are the deeper shades. So it looks like the spectrum is pretty well balanced, as you can see on the different parts of my face. You can clearly tell the light from the medium, you can tell the medium from the tan, and you can definitely tell the tan from the dark and from the deeper tones. So I think that looks pretty promising to me, even though there's only 22 shades so far. But given the numbering system and the fact that some of the numbers were skipped over, that tells me that there will probably be more shades. I am guessing that I am probably one of these shades right here, like a 240 or a 260, something in the medium to like maybe a light tan range. Something in here is probably my complexion. The one that seems to be blending the best is this shade. I believe it was 240. That was like the shade that I was thinking was going to be my shade. Although if I want to do a skin matching shade, I could easily go to any one of these. And if I want to contour, I could choose any one of these darker or deeper shades. So that's pretty much what we are working with. And now it's time for a thumbnail face because this was way too fun. Of course, I'm going to grab the lightest and the deepest as I always do and give you a thumbnail face. What do we think? How's the shade range? Let's see how it performs though. All right, so now it's time for me to remove all of this from my face. I have my cotton balls, I have my micellar water. So I actually went into the bathroom, I took a little break. I removed all of my makeup. I didn't use micellar water. I used something a little bit extra just to keep my skin healthy and also to remove all of the makeup. Also, I took the liberty to swatch all of the shades on my arm for a better shade reference. So I'm gonna pop that up right now. I'm even gonna number them for you just so you can pause, stop this video, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. And keep in mind, this is swatched on my arm, which is much more tan than my face. So just an FYI, but I hope this is helpful. All right, so now that we've done all that, I am going to actually test out this product. So first things first, I went on the Sephora website and I wanted to just see what these shades are described as. And I wanted to see which one sounds like me. I know which one actually looks like it would brighten, which one looks like it would shade match, but I usually actually just go by the description of what it says because I feel like the descriptions of these shades, of these skin tone shades, have gotten so advanced and a lot of the times they are just spot on. So right now I'm looking at shade 240, which is a light medium neutral. That would probably be my under eye concealer shade. I don't like my under eye to be too warm. I do want it to be a little bit more peachy or at least a little bit more neutral on me so that it can also color correct. And now I'm looking at shade medium warm 260. That would probably be my most skin tone matching shade. So let me go ahead and actually pick that up. So here is shade 260, medium warm, and I'm just gonna go ahead and attempt to cover up this baby right here. Also, I totally forgot to mention that in this PR package, I also got a brush, and this is the F5 brush from Mario. Of course I'm gonna drop it on the floor. Thankfully it has a protector. So this looks like one of those fingertip mimicking types of brushes. So I added this one dot of this 260 medium warm. Looks like it's a little bit too light for my forehead. You can kind of see the spotlight effect, but it definitely covered up everything rather easily and quickly. But once I turn to the side, you can clearly see the concealer on my skin. So probably my skin matching shade would be maybe a 340, which is also a warm, but this one is actually a medium warm as opposed to the 260, which is also a medium warm. Wait a minute. So 340 is a medium warm and 260 is also a medium warm, but perhaps this is a slightly darker warm. I'm gonna apply them side by side just to see what the difference is. Okay, very similar undertone, but obviously the 340 is a little bit deeper. Okay, not bad, not bad. It is skin matching enough. So I guess probably my winter shade would be like a 260, my current shade, probably a little bit darker than 340, maybe a 360, try a 380. That should be our medium golden. Honestly, probably what I am. And I'm testing this on my forehead because my forehead is the most tan part on my face. I actually don't ever tan my face. I always use the highest possible SPF, but somehow it always gets a little color anyway. So I would say the 380, which is the medium golden, is probably indeed my closest shade match to my summer skin tone, if you will. But not that we need to know all that because I'm actually gonna put foundation all over. And for that, I am gonna use the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Foundation. I have it here in the shade 14-0, which is an olive. First, of course, I am gonna prime my face with my DANESSA MYRICKS Blurring Balm Powder. And then I'm gonna apply a little bit of that to my forehead, to my cheeks. I'm gonna use Sigma's Multitasker brush to blend that out. I'm adding a very sheer light layer just for the purposes of getting rid of my redness because my skin does tend to flush. So I just want to even it out before I even test this concealer. Also, of course, I want to test it with the foundation from the same collection, the original Surreal Skin Foundation from Makeup by Mario, which, by the way, I grew to like once my skin cleared up. But when this launched earlier in the year, my skin was not in its best shape. I believe this was either in the middle of winter or in spring. It was breaking out heavily, and this foundation by no means was a match for me when I'm breaking out. Unfortunately, I can only wear this when my skin is at its best condition, which is currently in the summertime, and so that's what I save it for. One sheer layer of that, looking good, and now I'm ready to conceal. I'm gonna go for shade 240. So this is the light medium neutral. This is the shade that I'm gonna use for my under eye because I want to brighten and lift. It has that nice, perfect amount of peachiness, so it's not too golden, it's not too warm. This is the type of concealer color that I prefer for my under eye. I'm gonna use the brush. I'm gonna go ahead and set the under eye. I'm also gonna brighten a little bit around the nose just to bring some light into this area. Honestly, the formula feels extremely creamy. The coverage is really, really decent. I mean, you saw how well it covered up that bump that I had here on my forehead. I love the slight luminosity. It's almost reminding me of the lifting effect that Charlotte Tilbury's Spanx for the Face concealer has. You know the one, the Flawless Filter Concealer. This has a similar lifting and tightening sort of effect. I don't know if it's in my head, but I might actually feel some sort of a tingling sensation underneath my under eye. And not in an alarming way, but in like a refreshing kind of way. This looks absolutely beautiful. This looks so lifted, so perfected, very glam, but not too glam. I would say this is the perfect concealer shade for me, and I would probably wear this all year round. I don't really like to brighten too much in the winter time when my skin is at its palest, so I always kind of stick to the same color. This blends out really, really easily, blends well with the foundation, obviously, and it definitely does become one with the skin. So now I'm gonna use shade 260, not 240. This is the one that's actually in the warm category. I'm gonna brighten in between my brows, a little bit on the chin, a little bit around the mouth, down the center of the nose. I just want to see what capabilities this product has, and I'm gonna blend it out with the same brush. I have a little bit of discoloration here around my mouth, and this perfectly took care of that. I'm just gonna use my finger to gently blend out that tiny line. And oh my god, I gotta say, I am feeling pretty impressed. I think the coverage is rather perfect, actually. I am impressed. I just cover up this tiny little dot here, a couple of these freckles, and as many shades as I'm using, I'm probably gonna need to re-watch my own video by the time that it's live, just so I can know what shade I use for what. One more thing I'm gonna do, because no, I am not done, is I'm actually gonna try to use one of the deeper shades to give my face a little bit of dimension and a little bit of bronzing. So for that, I am thinking I'm gonna go for perhaps shade 460, which is a medium dark neutral. I'm gonna add just a little bit to the perimeter of my forehead, to my cheekbones and jawline, just a couple of dots, something like that. This is a little bit lighter than the shade that I would typically contour with, but I really do want to be subtle, and I'm just going to use the same brush that I use for foundation to gently diffuse and add that little bit of roundness. Okay, I will say that because this concealer is quite a solid creamy formula, it is a little bit harder to blend if you're trying to blend a larger area of skin. So I wouldn't necessarily use this for contouring. I feel like that is just too much work. Instead, I would just use a bronzer stick or something a little bit less solid, something that doesn't set as quickly as this does. But again, just for like a shade reference, this is what shade 460 looks on me when used as a bronzing slash contouring product. Okay, so now for the fun part, I am gonna set half of my face with powder. For that, I'm gonna use the LUNAR Beauty Translucent Pink Setting Powder. I'm only gonna do that on one side of the face because I do want to conduct a wear test, and I wanna see how truly self-setting this powder is. I wanna see if it creases after a couple hours of wear. I'm not gonna do a full-on 8-hour wear test because to me, if a concealer creases, I will probably be able to tell within the first 30 minutes. So this is gonna be the side that I am going to set and forget. Actually looks really lovely. Also gonna set half of my forehead. All right, you know what? I'm gonna set the whole entire forehead because this just looks crazy. But I am leaving this side of the face as is because I wanna see if this concealer is going to crease in the under eye, if it's gonna crease around the nose, if it's gonna shift in any sort of way. This is essentially the final face with the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Concealer on this side of the face without any setting, and this side of the face while set with powder. So let me quickly go ahead and show you a close-up of what my face looks like, and then I'm gonna give you my first impression, and then we're gonna jump into that wear test. Okay, so here is this side of the face. Skin is looking pretty good. I will say, in this camera, you can still kind of see the darkness of my under eye right here. It's kind of peeking through. It could be the camera, it could be the lighting, I'm not sure. But essentially, this is it. Here is the forehead. Here is this side of the face. You can kind of see a little bit of darkness here as well, which you can't actually catch with the big camera, but I just wanted to show you. All right, and there we have it. My first impression of this concealer is the following. It looks absolutely creamy. It is super, super easy to use. I'm pretty impressed with the shade range considering there are only 22 shades so far. I like my skin match. I like the brightening shade that I use for my under eye, and I am really excited to see how this wears. I have a feeling this is gonna wear really well with the powder on top of it, and also I'm just a powder girl. I'm very, very oily. I need to set my face. But if this wears relatively well on me, this could potentially be something very different for those of you with normal or dry skin. So let's see how it goes, and let's cue in that good old time warping music for that quick wear test. I am back. It's been a couple of hours, but a couple of hours is enough for me to tell how well a concealer has worn on my face. So this is the side of the face that I powdered down, and it looks pretty close to perfect. My skin looks really good, really smooth. There's absolutely no creasing. In fact, there's no oil seeping through at all. I do accredit that to the LUNAR Beauty powder. It is an insanely beautiful setting powder that you could check out in my previous video. But talking about the Makeup by Mario concealer, on this side, as you can tell, the side where I did not set with powder is totally crease-free. And that tells me that, in fact, this concealer right here is also, in fact, self-setting. And oh my God, when I pull back, sure, you can see a little bit of oil seeping through on my cheek here and in my pore zones, and not so much over here. But man, this product looks absolutely beautiful. It has worn so well. It looks really, really nice, really promising. I feel like the coverage is really good. The wearability is good. It feels so smooth. It definitely looks lifting on the skin, especially in the under eye. I will say that this under eye looks slightly darker than that one, but perhaps that is just me and my anatomy. This under eye is a little bit more hollow than the other one, and so it always naturally tends to create this little shadow. However, I feel like if I were to set this with powder, my concealer would show practically no signs of wear. So am I impressed? Yeah, you could say that. This concealer is gonna be my new buddy. I really, really like it. I'm excited to test out all the different shades and the variations of shades. I feel like because my skin tone is kind of like in the middle of the spectrum, I can get away with wearing a lot of different colors for various different purposes. My forehead is a lot more tan than the rest of my face, so I can get away with wearing a shade in the 300 range, whereas in my under eye, I would go for something in the 200, 240, 260 type of range. So definitely let me know your thoughts. My thoughts so far is that this is really impressive. This is really easy. For sure, it is creaseless and self-setting, as they say. I'm impressed. This is beautiful, and I will continue using it. Thank you, Mario and team, for putting this together for us. I have a feeling that a lot of people will like this. So that is my review. That is my wear test. That is my final verdict. And I hope you guys are here for it. So without further ado, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I'm gonna say farewell. Peace out. I'm out. See you in the next one.